All right, here we go. Let's let everybody get in. Let me put this on Twitter. Let's see. Where's my live? Am I live right now? I got it on Sports Center right now. Those of you coming in, let me know where you're watching from as you get in here. Need to get this up on Twitter real quick. There we go. Copy link. That's right, Dave. The diehards. Well, I'm about to get it on Twitter. We'll see who comes in. 5:30 on a Thursday might be. Let's see, post. Yeah, there he is. Back porch. Hey, you're on deck tonight. You're up tonight. I'm expecting the Braylon Braxton show. Jalen Braxton is his brother at Arkansas. Okay, that's up on Twitter. Dave, back porch. Welcome back. Dwayne, my guy, welcome. Give some people some time. What's everybody got it on TV right now? I've got it on Sports Center currently, but I plan on flipping it to UCF here in a bit. Back porch, good. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. Doing my best to stay on top of all this stuff with realignment as it's moving and shaking and shifting and all that just stuff. While also getting to some football. Tennis. Dwayne, who are you watching, Dwayne? Big Memphis in the house. Let's go, Neely. Thank you for joining. Yeah, good question. Yeah, according to reports, Dave, it looks like the ACC is voting tomorrow. Well, let me see what the latest one said. Because in my opinion, if they're going to meet, the vote's going to pass. Like, I just don't see a world where they're going to meet to vote, like, for the vote not to pass, if that makes sense. I don't know why they would do that. So in my mind, the only way the ACC meets in the morning is if they for sure know they're voting to bring in Stanford, Cal, and SMU. Let me find that latest one. Because it was a weird language on the latest report I saw on that. Where are we at? So I just saw it on X a year ago, reporting president's meeting. Yeah. The ACC president's meeting that was delayed this week by the UNC shooting has been rescheduled for tomorrow morning per multiple sources. They will discuss and potentially vote on Cal, Stanford, and SMU. Like, what is there still to discuss? I mean, I guess if they're meeting to look at these financial models, maybe that's what they're doing, but I mean, we're behind the 8 ball here, guys. Y'all need to make a decision. Yeah, thank you. Let's end this thing once and for all. I guess that's fair, Dave. You're saying that if they meet and vote against it, it's just to put a final like closure to it, which that does make sense. Good God, I just certainly would like that to be over. What do y'all think it happens? So let's say the vote doesn't pass. And now you still have the Pac-4 over here without a home. What are y'all's thoughts? Obviously, I've been talking all week about this, and I talk about it a lot on my show, but now that we're in kind of a live, interactive setting, like what are y'all's thoughts on that? Yeah, just in the thing already. I agree. Just curious if anyone has a theory on what they think is how it's all gonna kind of play out as far as the Pac. I still stand by my, what I've been saying from the beginning, which is at this point, trying to rebuild this conference by poaching teams just doesn't seem like a likely scenario when you look at the timing of everything, when you look at the exit fees. Back porch. Stanford goes independent. Can totally see that. Yep. That's true. They don't have the votes to expand. I don't either. 4 goes away. Yeah, Dave, I don't think they do either. And I like the theory I talked about. Maybe that was earlier this week in regards to unless the ACC provides a clear financial path out of the grant of rights, which I don't even know what that looks like legally or logistically. But that's the only way I see this vote getting passed, is because the teams that want out, they want out. So give us a clear financial pathway out, and we'll give you our yes vote. David should do the reverse merger. It's as close to a win that you can get. Absolutely. I mean, you've got the media partner in place. You've got you can still keep those valuable items that the PAC are still, in possession of as it pertains to the Autonomy 5 status, as it pertains to the units, the financial units. I mean, I do. I think it's a win for everybody. I think taking teams that will be on financial shaky ground is iffy at best. That's fair too, Dave. I mean, Dave Holland. It's like today I kind of had a whole show about, some of Oresco's comments and what if the 3 do get in, and then what do the remaining 2 do? And I mean, I think at this point we've talked about it so much. We've tracked this thing for so long. It feels like just get it done. Like at this point, however the dominoes fall, everything's going to work out. One thing is I would really like to see Oregon State in the American Conference simply because that fan base has really grown on me right here on YouTube. So what up, Tonka? Tonka Todd, there he is. Welcome to the show. We've got the diehards in here this evening. Making moves and having conversations. You have to at least try. Yeah, back porch, totally agree. I mean, you have to. And he's been doing that. And again, man, like I feel like what was reported yesterday as far as the things that he was saying, I guess at the CFP meetings with whether it was Dellinger or the as it Auerbach with the Athletic, it lines up with kind of what I had heard several weeks ago, which was that things were trending towards all 4 or none at all. There was mutual interest. This was when the ACC stuff seemed like it was dead the first time. And then the next week, all of a sudden, Condoleezza Rice, George W. Bush, everybody starts getting involved. And then next thing you know, Stanford's banging on the doors of the ACC. I think my thought is if they don't get in the ACC, I think Stanford is going to pull this same exact stunt they've been pulling with the ACC with the Big Ten. Not saying it's going to work, but that's like the next house down the road. I think they go trying to pull this same thing they're pulling now. Let's see. What would happen if Calvert and SMU join, then become financially insolvent in 3 years? That'd be wild. Well, Dave, when this thing first came out about SMU foregoing their full revenue share of media revenue, one of the things I put out, I can't remember if I said it here or on Twitter or both, but I was like, you do that because you feel confident in the billionaire booster money and backing that you have. And one of the things I had said was one thing about billionaires is that when expectations and results don't begin to happen as fast or quickly, either how they expected or as quickly as they expected, there's always a loophole out. And it just seems like a very risky deal for SMU to do unless they're not concerned with that as far as whether their results are poor in that conference. And listen, hats off to them. If it works out for them, great. I'm not going to knock SMU trying to get to the ACC. Back porch. How crazy that the former President, Secretary of State stick their noses in football realignment, beyond insane. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yep, you said it here. It seems plausible. Yeah. So, I guess I've got it here on Sports Center, which this is not the Sports Center that I grew up on. Just excited about some games. Let me get to what we have over here in terms of tonight's games. So what games? Let me start here. Back porch. I know. I'm sure I know who you're watching tonight. But what games is everybody else watching that's on here? There he is, Steve, the Temple man. Welcome, Steve. Welcome, Steven. The ACC pulls a Pac-12 and goes away. Which of the ACC teams do you think the AAC could pull? Okay, so I was looking at this recently, and Utah, Florida. Yep, that's a big one, Dave. Who was I looking at? Tonka, I'm staying on your question for a second. Let me pull this up because I think it was like Wake Forest, Boston College. I mean, maybe Georgia Tech. Would Georgia Tech still be available, or is that too much of a market that would get passed up in the event the bottom fell out? Let's see. Atlantic Coast. Yeah, I was looking at those three possibly. Let's see. Because I feel like everybody else in the conference would find a landing spot. Now, I don't know if y'all saw, but the Big 12 AD, I think it was today, talked about how the Big 12 right now, or at 16 teams, is basically maxed out and is in a perfect position to negotiate a new deal in 2031. So I don't know how much that's going to impact things as it pertains to poaching from the ACC. Yeah, according to what they just said on Sports Center, Tonka, he's out there warming up, testing that knee out, Cam Rising. So Pac plus American save us from the Mountain West nightmare, Steve A. I would love that. Steve, who are you a fan of? Are you Oregon State? So Oklahoma State is the best team in the Big 12. I don't know about that one. UAB Blazer alum here, Daniel Blankenship. Welcome, Daniel. Thanks for joining. Daniel, how you feeling about the Blazers? Oklahoma, these pokes were the redheaded stepchild of Oklahoma. I would back that, Steve. Yeah, me too. Speaking of Blazers, let me pull this up. I don't know if anyone saw the show I did today. I talked about a connection between the two head coaches tonight with A&T and UAB. But here's some thoughts. Those of you that are going to be watching this UAB game. When you look at Trent Dilfer and his staff, right? He's got two coordinators who have never called a game at the collegiate level. Dilfer himself has never coached a game at the collegiate level. And I was thinking about this today. So, okay, if I'm watching this game, what am I looking for? Obviously, you're expecting to win, and you're expecting to win comfortably. So that's kind of a given, especially with some of these early season games. And the things I want to see is, first off, I want to see what is the play calling dynamic between Dilfer and Mortensen. Is Mortensen going to be calling this thing single-handedly? Is it going to be kind of a by committee deal between him and Coach Dilfer? You know, when I asked Trent Dilfer at AAC Media Days about Mortensen, he had very high praises, and he used the word simpatico regarding how that was his word, not mine. He used that word as it pertains to their view and how they see the game philosophically. And Dilfer said he's not a systems guy. It sounds like he's a guy that's going to take the talent and the players that he has and tailor whatever scheme they run to the strengths of the team, which I fully support. I think that's what every coach's philosophy should be. So I'm really curious to see, first off, what they look like schematically, what that play call rhythm looks and feels like. I'm sure the first 10, 15 are going to be off the script. But once they get into the game, what does that rhythm look and feel like? Is Mortensen kind of the guy calling the shots? Is it Dilfer? Is it by committee? Because that's something I think you could look at early in the season. Same thing on the defensive side. Is the defense playing hard, fast, and relentless, or do they look like they're thinking too much? Those are just things I always look at. First off, first game of the season, you're going to expect to have to iron some kinks out. But on the flip side, when you have as new of a staff as this is, now granted, Dilfer and his DC, I know were together, I think, was it at Lipscomb? But just, different level of competition. Just curious to see, what is the team discipline like? How are they on penalties? Do they look like they're playing loose? Are they playing tight? There's just, a lot of those kind of coaching, those sports cliches of teams take on the personality of their head coach or of their coaching staff. And that's where I wonder, okay, what personality are we going to see of this team tonight? I think that's what I'm most excited to look at as it pertains to UAB. Certainly a lot of anticipation around Trent Dilfer, a former Super Bowl champion making his debut. And if you watch how he coached in high school, like that dude's intense. And I love that. And so I'm just curious to see, how the whole staff comes together. Let me get to the chat here. Sorry. I would back that. Oregon State, that's what I thought. OSU alum. Yep. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Beaver fans that are on here, I don't know where y'all are going to end up, but if it's not the American Conference, I might have to do some realignment with this podcast and YouTube show and whether it's the American Athletic Beavers show or something, because I've got to find a way to keep that together. I'm hoping this show can will the realignment multiverse to somehow bring the American Athletic and the Pac teams together. And when I say Pac teams, more so Washington State and Oregon State. I just don't know. I mean, I would like to think that Oresco could also leverage future westward expansion in trying to lure those teams in. But I think Dilfer will say we need a run or let's work to open this play or that play and trust his OC to get it done. I think that's fair, Tonka. I mean, I do. And what a better way to do it now. I mean, it's Thursday night. You're on ESPN Plus. It's not exactly a game where the whole world is watching. It's an opponent that's a lesser opponent, not to knock his opponent, but as it pertains to the talent for talent, position for position, it should be a comfortable win. And what a great opportunity to really work out some of that stuff before they hit one of these weeks where they've got a conference matchup, or even when they got Georgia coming up in a couple weeks where everyone's going to be watching. Okay, hold on. We got a Cam Rising update. Oh, okay, no, we're just getting footage of him warming up in his shorts and shirt. Yeah, it doesn't sound like they've got a decision that's come out on that yet. How are we on time? Are we? Nope. Okay. I'm letting y'all know I'm putting this UCF game on at 6 o'clock, and we may wrap up here about 6:30 or so, 6:45. We'll just kind of see how it flows. I want to make sure that I'm able to go get settled to watch some football. I want y'all to be able to go get settled to watch some football if you aren't already. But I am not. So I will be doing that as soon as I finish this stream. All right, what do we got? The 3 ads will not come in if current members can leave prior to ads getting paid. To have 3 lesser come in and have 4 majors leave is a net ACC loss. The ground rights could be traded for $100 million. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I get what you're saying. You're talking about ACC, Steven. Yeah, that's a good thought. Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that's kind of one of the theories I believe that's out there, though, is that the vote's not going to pass then unless somebody flips. And there's even some smoke around the fact that even some of the quote-unquote yes votes right now are actually silent no's. And if push comes to shove, they're going to flip back to no if something with that grant of rights, if a way out of that grant of rights does not get established. In my perfect world, it's a 22-team AAC with East and West divisions and limited cross-country travel. Yeah, 100%, Dave. 100%. Oresko has to have more cards than Kliavkoff when it comes to negotiations. This is a poker hand. That's already been decided. No media contract and half the team's gone. Yeah, I mean, and to that point, I talked about that on today's episode, actually, of the podcast, is people are kind of getting a little, like, I don't know, aggressive towards Oresko because of his quote about we're kicking the tires on Oregon State and Washington State. And he's been invited to go visit the campuses for a presentation, and he said that he'll probably go. Like, that's all posturing. That's all negotiation posturing. Like, you can't, you just can't look like the desperate conference. And Oresko also has those ins and outs. I mean, the guy worked in TV. He has relationships with ESPN. He's got a very good deal for a G5 conference right now, which I believe could be negotiated up, bringing in those two teams, or four. I don't want to keep saying four because Stanford, I mean, yeah, at this point, it looks like they're just going to bang on either ACC, Big 10, maybe even Big 12 at this point doors. And then if none of those open, they're just going to go independent. And I at least appreciate that Oregon State and Washington State are now kind of taking some action. The part I don't understand is how they think they're going to rebuild the pack, backfilling it. I just don't see that happening. On paper, okay, but when you start looking at the logistics of what it's going to take for that to happen, a merger seems like the only option at this point. Kliavkoff has no stones. Dave. Steven Sipe, Back Porch and Holland are both spot on. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, they did. But now that everybody's telling them to pound sand, Dave, it sounds like they're receptive to it. But I think the Big 12's done this cycle. And quite frankly, earlier in the summer, I was getting a lot of sort of, whispers that Yormark really was in on UConn. It was just more of a, when all those teams from the Pac became available, that was kind of the easiest sell. But I have a feeling if Yormark's going to add more teams, he's going to look east, not west. But again, and this is where the more I talk about it, the more sense it makes. Like, ESPN needs that time zone. So if those schools don't get in the ACC, why can't you up the deal in the AAC and bring them in? And quite frankly, you could probably get it for cheaper with the AAC than you could putting them in one of either the Big 12 or the ACC. And then if you do the merger, you retain that Auto 5 status. Like, it just makes sense to me. But I'm also not the smartest guy or the sharpest tool in the shed or whatever. The more you talk about it and think about it, the more sense it makes. I think they'd go independent first. Totally agree. Oh, I lost it. Let's see. Yeah, I think they'd go independent first. They are way too snobby about AAU status. They are. But the AAC can make a case, could get creative with the schedule to bring some of that AAU status to the table with USF, Tulane, Rice, and then if you brought Cal in with them, I mean, you would have something to work with there, but I don't know, guys. I'm just ready for it to be done. I'm glad we got a full slate of games tonight, a full slate of games Saturday. Nathan, Trey, have you noticed UAB is the first school outside? Oh, no, I did not know that, Nathan. Thank you for pointing that out. Meaning, is what you're saying is UAB is basically the next one in? Or am I misunderstanding what you're saying? That'd be excellent, honestly. Yeah, man, and that kind of to that point right there, I'm okay if when all the dust settles, if what we have left is either 14 teams, the same 14 teams, or 13 teams because SMU jumped ship. I'm still not sold that the ACC thing is going to happen, but let's just say it does. Like, I'm fine if what Oresco were to decide to do was negotiate as high of an exit fee as possible, double down his investment on the teams that are currently existing, right? You want to keep the ones happy who are still there, even though, you know, like, I get why Memphis fans aren't happy and how they've kind of just been looked over this round of realignment. But I'm definitely trying to keep Memphis, Tulane, some of those programs like that happy. But then I'm looking to put more, if I can, into some of the teams I just brought in, like the UABs, the UTSAs, the North Texases, the FAUs, Charlotte, you know, leaving one out. But mainly those first four that I mentioned, because I think, you know, those are schools that, as these new resources of revenue and exposure really start to take root, you're going to see those programs flourish. And I mean, look, like, history repeats itself. I mean, we got same thing happened with UCF in Houston, coming in from the Conference USA, new level of resources, new level of exposure. And then over time, boom, they all of a sudden become these programs that are desirable to a Power 5 conference. And ideally, it would be nice if the AAC, and this is where I feel like a merger could be so clutch, is kind of position itself where it's no longer the Oakland A's of the early 2000s, where it's just the farm system for Power 5 conferences to come poach teams from once they're developed and ready. But no, it's once they're developed and ready, they've got the Auto 5 status, they've got, you know, a lucrative media deal. But even as we're looking right now with teams like Stanford and Cal and SMU, how lucrative the media deal doesn't even matter. What they want is the Power 5 status. And I think the way we refer to Power 5, how that is used or Power 4, whatever we want to call it now, Power 2, like, that's going to start changing in the years to come. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the autonomy status, and really where it matters the most, and I said the same thing on the show today, is in recruiting. I mean, it's literally a perception. At this point, it doesn't even really mean anything. Like, the Autonomy 5, those of you that don't know, like, the whole purpose of that was to give these conferences autonomy on how they set rules as far as, like, paying student athletes, like how much student athletes could be paid. And the NCAA, one, was worried about teams bolting on them. They had the lawsuit with the Northwestern or something back then. But the reality is, with these new NIL laws, I mean, that's kind of taken away some of the luster of the whole original intents of the Autonomy 5 status. And so now the reason why it has so much power and meaning in the P5 label is because it's recruiting. Okay, let me get to the comments here. Correct. Okay, so going with Nathan, correct. Last four they let in, they released a bar graph, and UAB is next school. Nice. $700 million in research, more than the four added. That's excellent. Okay, well, that only bolsters the AAC even more. I didn't know that, so thank you for bringing that to the table, Nathan. Back porch. Would be interesting to see how critical academics are to the SEC and Big Ten. Yeah. That's fair, back porch. I would say it's probably more on the Big Ten than the SEC, but I don't know. Chris Rathbone. I'm pumped for Tulsa football tonight. Let's go, Chris. All right, let me I'm going to get to Tulsa here in just a second. Let me get to the rest of these on the football field. Yeah, I mean, Dave, that's fair as it pertains to athletics. But I think when you're looking at who's making these decisions when it comes to realignment, it's the presidents, right? And so they look at the whole picture of the university. I totally get what you're saying and fully support it. But the practical answer to that is, unfortunately, you know, it's not ADs making these decisions, it's presidents. And that's something that presidents will look at, and it can make, you know, a conference – it can make a conference more desirable for certain teams to stay in. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of how I look at it. I'm interested in how disciplined UAB plays. Daniel, yep, they racked up a lot of penalties last year. Yeah, that's what I was saying a second ago, exactly. And one, to see is there improvement in that area from a season ago, and then two, looking at, okay, that can give you a good, you know, base temperature of how the new staff is settling in as far as establishing the culture and things of that nature in week one. Now, are there going to be kinks to iron out? Yeah. You don't expect them to go play a perfectly clean game of ball, but you can also look and say, all right, these dudes seem to be buying in, or we still kind of look like the same undisciplined dudes. Not that UAB had a bad team, though. Don't get it twisted. They've had 5 straight seasons of winning records or whatever it's been. But I think that's something you can look at to give you a gauge, just at least in week one. Obviously, it's a long season. A lot of improvement can happen. Bill Clark never cracked the penalty issue. Yeah. Well, I mean, didn't he hire, was it Joe? What's his last name? He was the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, and I think he brought him in as a tight ends coach. I can't think of his last name. Tulane went 5-1 against Power 5 last year. And you know what, David? I was at one of those 5 wins. I was at the Cotton Bowl. Dave, yes. He is. And I think they already named the who's going to take over for him, if I recall. In the near future, where there will be 2 different leagues, one being the power schools and the G5 other. So then is the AAC positioning to be premier conference of a G5 league? Well, only 3 YouTube likes. Hold on, let me get to your question, Tuggy. Yeah, if you're still on the stream, I'm not always the best at doing that stuff. Please like this video. Press subscribe if you have not already. You see there's a super chat or super thanks, whatever it's called. If you want to support a small business, College GameTime LLC, that's the business infrastructure under this content and podcast, which I've actually got some exciting things happening there, but I don't want to bore anybody with that. But from a financing standpoint and just the business infrastructure, some fun stuff that I'm hoping will continue to allow us to continue to grow and expand and do the things that we're doing. But anyways, so yeah, thank you for saying that, Steven. Hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Hit like, takes 2 seconds. Okay, will there be 2 different leagues? So that's kind of getting to the Chip Kelly sort of theory. I just saw the time. Let me get this put on the UCF game. The former AAC team making its debut as a Big 12 team against Kent State. All right, got that going. And that's on FS1 if anybody wants to tune into that. I don't know how they're getting ready to split this off and how this is getting ready to work. I don't think there will be 2 different leagues if they continue to keep the right model with expanded playoff. Meaning, if the 6-6 model sustains itself, which at least through the current contract, it's going to, it looks like, because it's going to require a unanimous vote for it to be changed, and I don't see that happening. I think that you're going to always, as long as you have a seat at the table for the G5 conferences, I don't think it's like this even split where it's 2 different leagues. But to answer that second part of your question, is the AAC positioning to be premier conference of a G5 league? I think it already is a premier conference of a G5 league. In my opinion. But I think if they could work out some type of merger with the pack and then begin to expand into some of the Mountain West territory, I mean, you're never going to have with that the Big 10 or the SEC or Big 12, but I mean, I think that's something that you could look at as being competitive, with an ACC minus, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, some of those schools that are already looking to jump ship. Let's see if FSU. So Sean, if FSU and Clemson leave the ACC by some act of God, would AAC teams consider going to ACC, which I believe is a dying conference anyway? Well, I mean, I think honestly, what we just learned with the whole pack fiasco, I think some would. Yeah, if they still had this Power 5 low label on them. I mean, look, you had teams like SMU, San Diego State almost ended up in no man's land, for crying out loud, trying to get into the pack. And the pack was obviously on, days away from the bottom falling out. It was evident they didn't have anything in place if you were just paying attention. And I just think teams are so, as Oresco said yesterday, so desperate to be associated with that Power 5 label that I think some would. But I think it also depends on how things shake here with these remaining Pac teams in the American Conference. Can't wait for the Battle of the Bones. Seems to me that Chip Kelly is onto something, and eventually all football teams will be independent, will be better so that teams can be scheduled to play similar talent levels. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if what you're saying too is it'd bring more parity, bring more parity to the game. If that's even a salvageable thing. I don't know. When we start getting too futuristic, my brain starts going, that's a little bit beyond my my expertise. Let me talk a little bit about Tulsa. Y'all keep the chat going. That's fine. Make sure you're hitting like. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't subscribed already. Let me check a couple things here. Sorry, now I just got distracted by UCF, Kent State. UCF is driving. All right, focus here. Tulsa. So Tulsa fans or fan that may or may not be on this stream right now, one, how are you feeling about Kevin Wilson coming in his year one? I talked to him at AAC Media Days. Basically, the question I'd asked him was, it's not his first rodeo as a head coach. He was a head coach at Indiana. And then since that stint, he's been, in that Ohio State program. What are some things that he's evaluated? What are some things he's learned that now as he's entering into his second go around, what is he looking to do? And, he just kind of gave a very, he gave a good answer, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was essentially saying, I'm not going to try and be someone I'm not. I'm not going to try and be Urban Meyer, but it's just seeing some things that Ohio State did, but also taking into account that he didn't say it this way, but this is what he was implying, is that Tulsa doesn't have all the resources and facilities that Ohio State does. So there are some things that logistically you can't do, but it's taking those things, what made those things effective, and figuring out, okay, how can we incorporate that with what we do have? And that was kind of essentially what he was saying, is taking what he's learned at a place like Ohio State and then taking it and incorporating it in the best possible way at a program like Tulsa, even though the resources and facilities and things of that nature may not be the same. My thoughts on Tulsa coming into this year is Braylon Braxton. I feel like he's the X factor. I could see him going off for 4 or 5 total TDs today. I know Kevin Wilson, when he was talking about Braylon in his press conference, he had referenced that, we're working on him with his footwork. He's a student of the game. He wants to learn. He wants to be coached. However, he said part of Braylon's game that you don't really get to see when you're in shirts and helmets is that, and even in practice necessarily, because you don't hit the quarterback, because he said sometimes he's able to make a little chicken salad when it's not the best piece of chicken out there on the play. And I think we all know what he means when he says that, is his ability to extend plays, make plays with his legs in the run game. And, you look at the momentum Braylon Braxton showed in those last 3 games a season ago, particularly that Houston game. And if he can pick up where he left off, man, I've got Tulsa and Temple as my 2 sort of sleeper teams that if anybody's going to go on a magical run in the American Conference this year, like Tulane did a season ago, because remember, a season ago, we weren't talking about Tulane like we are right now. They're coming off a 2-10 season. No one was really expecting a lot out of them, except for maybe some fans that were, in the know. But ultimately, no one was really expecting much, and then they go on this run. And I feel like if there's any team in the American that can do something like that, it's either going to be Tulsa or Temple, and it's because of their quarterbacks. Not saying they will. I do feel like Temple's going to be bowl eligible this year. Getting a text message here. But anyways, if anyone has any thoughts on any of that you want to throw in the chat, I'll, speaking of the chat, get to the chat. And UCF, they're inside the red zone now, if anybody's watching. All right, scrolling up. Where are we at? How in the world, seems the Chip Kelly, how in the world does the SEC get away with playing 8 conference games and then getting to CFP so easily? Yeah. And getting 2 teams in often. Well, I think that, one, I think it's because the SEC, they're the top of that conference are the most elite programs in the country. But I get the point that you're making. Quality of athletes that are growing in the region. I mean, yeah, okay. So Tonka basically just between them close. Of course, I'm talking about all non-Bama Georgia teams. Yeah. Okay, let's see. We got Pine Bluff, Tulsa. How are we doing over here? All right, anybody got a game on right now? I've got UCF, Kent State. Okay. Oh, UCF just scored. Back porch, I'm going to answer your question in a second. UCF is up 6-0. First touchdown of the season. Man, that drive looked very easy. Granted, they're playing Kent State. Here's my thoughts on UNT. It's kind of a catch-22 in a weird way because I actually think UNT is going to come out and beat Cal, right? And I think what's going to happen is the expectation on that team is going to go up. I don't think they're ready necessarily to compete for the conference just yet. I think they have the coach in place, and I think they have the resources coming in that are going to allow them to build that program into a consistent contender for the conference. But I don't think it's going to be this year. I think that as the season continues to wear on, as they get into conference play, they're going to struggle a bit. They lost a lot to the portal. They got some guys in, but I mean, they lost some dudes to the portal in the offseason. But man, I just feel like the way this thing is feeling going into Saturday, I think Eric Morris is a very brilliant football mind. I think he's going to go into that game with putting everything out on the table. I think that Cal, whether we want to admit it or not, whether they want to admit it and acknowledge it or not, there's some distracted players on that team wondering, like, where are we going to be playing next year? Mainly the underclassmen. I know as a coach, he's trying to keep everything focused on this season. Don't worry about next, but that's just not the way of kids right now. Kids got family members, man, if y'all go to the Mountain West or if y'all go this, you got to transfer. And so I think there's a lot of that happening right now in that Cal locker room. And having to travel to Texas and go to Denton and be playing at North Texas. And, man, North Texas, when they get a game on linear coverage over the past 5 years, it hasn't been a lot, but they usually perform like non-bowl games. They went into Fayetteville several years ago and took care of business. And so that was bittersweet for me because, like, I'm an Arkansas guy and a UNT. I'm an alum of both schools. And but, man, I think they're going to beat Cal this weekend. I think it's going to be a tremendous, shot in the arm for them and the program and recruiting and all that. And I think they may even continue to have some early season success. But I do believe with the depth and just things of that nature, the injuries and the wear and tear of the course of a football season, I think some point down the stretch, it's going to come back to get them. And I think they hit a bowl game. I think they have a successful season. But part of my concern is how much is a win this weekend going to skyrocket that expectation for them? And then as the season plays out, they don't reach that expectation. And then what in reality is a successful year one for Eric Morris, in a lot of people's eyes, feels like a disappointment because, oh man, you came out beating Cal, you got off to such a hot start, and then you just kind of fell off, is my fear of what the narrative might be. But I think they're in good hands with Eric Morris. I think they're in a hotbed recruiting-wise. North Texas is 45 to 90 minutes away from building a conference contending roster just in that vicinity of where their campus is. And I'm not even talking about like the big recruits that go to the big time schools. I'm saying just with the lower hanging fruit. So those are my 2 cents on North Texas. Those teams take the best talent from the West Coast and other parts of the country, Bama, Georgia, Michigan. Yeah, I mean, talking C.J. Stroud, Najee Harris, Bryce Young. I actually wrote an article about that, I think a year or so ago. Agree, Christopher. What did Christopher say? Can't wait for the battle. Oh, okay. Y'all got a little sidebar going on. So, but anyways, Back Porch, that's kind of my thoughts on them. What are you thinking of as far as Tulsa goes this year? Like, what's the expectation around the program right now? I mean, are people wanting Wilson to turn it around year one, or are they going to give him some time? I mean, there's got to be some excitement around Braylon Braxton, I would think. Hey, y'all had a nice little run a couple years ago. It was a COVID year, but still a good season for Tulsa, especially the linebacker got drafted first round by Arizona. I don't know why the 6'4" won all the postseason awards. For whatever reason, his name's escaping me right now, but that was a good season for Tulsa. Had nothing to do with money, trust me. Oh, yeah, Xavier Collins. Thank you. Yeah, here's a funny one about Montgomery. He was the offensive coordinator my junior year of high school for Denton High School, and we played Denton High School that season. And Denton High, not that anyone cares, but they had a lineman going to LSU. They had a running back that went to Houston that ended up playing in the NFL. They had a quarterback that ran a 4.4 and a defensive back that ran a 4.4. And they were freaking loaded. And I think that was Montgomery's last season as a high school coach before he went into maybe his last season, maybe not, before he went to the college ranks. But anyways, there's just a random Philip Montgomery story for you, Back Porch, or any other Tulsa fan that would care to know that. All right. Well, where are we at on time? Probably hang in there for another 10, 15, see how this game's going. How are we doing on Twitter? Anybody? Oh, thank you, Tonka. Appreciate you sharing this on Twitter. Very much appreciate it. Now, you guys tell me. I mean, I'm not going to do it this weekend, but I mean, I'm kind of trying to feel it out, right? I did the watch party last Saturday where we were on here for like 4 hours. Tonight I'm doing just kind of a quick pregame show, Q&A, sort of, feel everyone out while we're waiting for more games to start. Saturday morning, I'll do a very similar thing as I'm doing right now. Neely, us Memphis fans been scrubbed for. I agree, especially on our basketball pedigree with Penny, and our football is improving, and we have the pieces. Just need to put it. Yep. So, Chris, let me ask you. I have been saying this now, I feel like all offseason. Like, I feel like Memphis has the ingredients to put together a championship, a conference championship season. And then having that game against Boise, I think, will be critical for that New Year's Six bid come season end. I mean, is Silverfield the dude? Because I feel like he's got the quarterback. I feel like Memphis might have one of the best pass defenses in the country this year. I don't know what that front seven's looking like. I know they're going to need to stop the run. But I feel like with that pass defense, if the front seven can anchor down, they're going to have a solid defense. They've got the arsenal of weapons on the offensive side to put points up on the board. They've got the quarterback. I'm just curious your thoughts on Silverfield. I mean, is he the dude? Is this like a make or break year for him? Loving the live chats. Appreciate you, David. I'm having fun with it too. Like I said last Saturday, man, like I really don't care whether it's 2 people or 200 people. Like if it's a scheduled live stream, like we're going to do it. Don't care how many people do or don't show up. Justice, definitely on the hot seat. Appreciate you. I'm assuming you're referring to Silverfield with Memphis. Justice, you put a comment up. Was that yesterday? Excuse me. Sorry, guys. And I responded, but I never saw if you responded back. I've been down on him for a while. They abandoned their successful hiring formula of getting a hotshot OC. That's fair. Yeah, because what was it? It was Fuente, then Norvell, and then, I guess Silverfield. Yeah, because I was at the Cotton Bowl game that I guess was Silverfield's like debut. Because was he like the special teams coordinator or something like that? Yeah, O-line coach. Yeah, that's what it was. O-line coach in-house. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember who was kind of next in line during that hiring cycle, because I remember there being a coach I thought, ooh, that'd be a good one for Memphis to land, and then they ended up pretty quickly hiring Silverfield. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But I'm with you on that. I'll tell you right now, if he is out at season's end, and this might be crazy, but I'll tell you who I'm going after if I'm Memphis. It's Bobby freaking Petrino. And I know that might be a polarizing statement, but he's still got it in him. Oh, Freeze. Maybe that's who I was hearing too, because that was when he had he even gotten to Liberty yet? Yeah, I think I remember that, Justice. Freeze. It was Freeze. I think there was another one though too. That was a hot coordinator at the time. Was that? No. I can't remember who it would have been. Or actually, Justice, what would you feel about like a Garrett Riley as the next one? Bobby Petrino, and then that would be something. Hey, he's the OC at A&M right now, actually. Me and Coach Petrino, we've exchanged some messages on Twitter. He was gonna come on the show, and then this was like a while ago, and then something came up. Whatever, I don't remember. I just haven't reached back out in a while. But him and I had gone back and forth. I know he's kind of a polarizing figure, especially with the old Arkansas fan base. But I could see someone like a Garrett Riley would fall perfectly. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking, Justice. And man, that would be a fun one to see, actually. I hate to sit here and speculate like before week one can officially get started who Memphis' next coach is, but I feel Memphis fans, man, because you've got all the ingredients this year, and it's like you would hate to see that go to waste. Hennigan's got another year, though, right? Pretty sure. Hennigan's a Denton kid. See, I could see North Texas with the new level of resources and exposure being able to get kids like Hennigan to come to North Texas now that they're in the AAC. Like, that's a perfect example of someone I could see, North Texas being able to go after, who probably during Hennigan's recruiting cycle didn't really take them seriously. But now I think those are the kind of kids they can start to pop up on their radar. Getting back to that question from earlier. All right, let me check a couple things here. Okay. Yeah, well, UCF is up 14-0. I think we got another big game start. Oh, I say big game. Oh, it's NC State UConn. That game's getting ready to kick off. Of course, we got the big ones happening. Anybody watching that Minnesota-Nebraska game? I think I'm gonna have the two AAC games on two screens. And then I think I'm going to have Florida, Utah, Nebraska, Minnesota. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do my own little watch party. Ooh, Tonka. I do like that. I do like that. Lunny, a lot of success as an OC at UTSA. Now he's at Illinois, back with Bielema. I agree. And he could definitely recruit that area if we were to be talking Memphis. I think Garrett Riley is going to probably be one of the hotter names, especially if he can have Clemson's offense back to what they were, prior to this last kind of few seasons where they've dudded out. But imagine that, Garrett Riley to Memphis. Well, we discussed it here first, right here on the live stream, in the event that happens. Hey, I kind of told the story last Saturday, back porch. We're going to try and see as much, we're going to make this the go-to place. I'll never want to sit here and try to act like I'm something I'm not, but I do have a credential now with the American Conference. Was a part of that media days, and I definitely do feel like it's kind of an untapped market right now, and it's got just as passionate and hungry of fans as any other conference. So I'm with you, and I'm a graduate of one of the schools, so along with Arkansas. I don't know what it is. I think the Arkansas part of me, I've always been fond of Memphis though too, just because there used to be some really good basketball games between Arkansas and Memphis, and I hope they get that basketball rivalry back going. I think that would just be good for college hoops in general. I don't want to start trailing into college hoops right now, week 1 of college football, but just a sidebar thought. But guys, I'm probably looking here at a few more minutes. Obviously, I will have my episode tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get some news on the ACC, and we can talk about that. I can talk about that in tomorrow's episode. Then I'm planning to do a live stream Saturday morning, just kind of like this, an informal sort of hangout discussion for any of you that want to chime in. And then, we got a full slate of games. And then I will also look at bringing back a watch party stream. This weekend it's going to be this weekend honestly it's going to be a pregame show, just because I got a lot of games I'm trying to watch on Saturday, and I want to be able to watch them all. And Kent State! Oh! Did he get in? Anybody watching this? Okay, Kent State. I know they got a new coach now, but they were the same ones that made a little noise early against Georgia last year. Kent State's about to make this a 14-7 game, I think. I thought he was about to score. He's down at the 1. Anybody watching this? Dave, I'm hoping we can figure something out with the American and the Pac. Oh, penalty. Never mind everything I just said on Kent State. Yeah, okay, David, you're watching. It's coming back, though, unfortunately, for them. I got to see if I get that CBS Sports Nation or whatever it is, because I think that's what NC State UConn are on. I got YouTube TV rocking right now. Yeah, I'm hoping, back to what I was saying, we get something with this Pac American Conference. We'll see how it shapes out, because depending on how the dominoes fall, there might have to be some realigning with this show as well, just to continue, covering the teams that, plus some additional ones. I think it's funny. It's weird because I've seen a pretty big uptick with some Oregon State and Washington State fans watching this show. And now I'm like, well, dang. I mean, if y'all are going to watch this show as consistently as you have been, I got to figure out a way to keep talking about y'all as a part of the regular show. But that's a conversation for another day. Okay, 6:30, about a half hour till these 7 p.m. games kick off. I agree, Dave Holland, especially now. I hope Oregon State wins the conference this year. Anybody got anything before I sign it off, man? Teams of the MAC and the AC are very dangerous teams for any Power 5 school. True. I agree with that, Tonka. Maction. Yeah. Looking forward to tomorrow's vid trade. Take it easy, sir. Yes, sir. Got to bounce, but thanks for doing it. Yep. I'm getting ready to close it out, too. Ladarius, my man. Go Memphis. Steven Sipe, thanks. Yep. If you want to leave a super chat on the way out, feel free. If not, no worries. Justice, hey, I appreciate you, man. David, roll wave. I got you. Appreciate you. We're going to keep it coming, man. Fast and furious. We're all in this together. So I'm gonna cut this stream here in 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Enjoy watching the games tonight, and be looking out for the video drop tomorrow. Somewhere around lunchtime or something like that. Tonka, you the man. Appreciate you. Woo pig. And that's it for tonight. Appreciate y'all for tapping in.